So after discussing the definition of acids and bases through different ways, we have discussed about the Lewis concept, we had discussed about Bronsted-Lowry concept, we had discussed about the very famous Arrhenius concept. Now the questions that were coming in, some of you have asked the question that which one should be the base theory to answer whether a given sample or whether a given substance is acid or basis. Here I am re-clarifying once again. See, initially at class 10 level, normally we think about the Arrhenius concept. But at the same point of time, Bronsted-Lowry concept is also equally important. See, an acid, if it is, we can define it in the every possible way that we should. It is not necessary that only Arrhenius concept will prove that it is acid. It could be with the help of Bronsted-Lowry theory, it could be with the help of the Lewis acidity also, or Lewis basicity also. So whichever is applicable in whatever cases, that we should be subjected to explain. Now we can choose our explanation depending on the substance, which one is the best suitable definition for that particular substance. So there is no hard and fast rule, but normally, yes, at class 10 level, we normally talk about the Arrhenius, and if not Arrhenius is sufficient, then Bronsted-Lowry concept. Lewis concept is rarely used, but we need to keep all these three in our mind, because as we know, in higher classes we will face Lewis-based concept and Lewis acidity concept more often. Now, shifting our attention, after defining the acids, let us see the topics for today. The topics are like this. Naturally occurring acids, we are going to see what are the naturally occurring acids. Then the mineral acids. Then dilute and concentrated acids that you must have seen in the lab already. Then strong and weak acids. Which acids are strong, which acids are weak, and why. And at last, there is a big topic known as the properties of acids. We will see the equations and various properties that acid should have. So these are the topics for today. You note it down, then we are going to discuss one by one. Let us discuss about the naturally occurring acids. As the name itself suggests, naturally occurring means in the nature it is easily obtained. So here we are talking about those acids which are available in nature already. Some of them are very well known in our day-to-day life, like we can give the example like citric acid. We know in lemon it is present. Then ascorbic acid, you all note it down. It is present in onion. Then we can write tartaric acid. Then we can take malic acid. Lactic acid. And oxalic acid. These are the well-known acids which are present in the various ingredients, mostly foods in our daily life, and that is why the taste is sour also. Next topic is mineral acids. The name is given like this because these are prepared from minerals. Examples: phosphoric acid, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, etc. Very well known. These are very useful in industries because they are being used as fertilizers, reagents, dyes, so many other utilities also. So these are the uses. One thing you must know, that most of these acids, it is very, very important that most of the mineral acids are highly corrosive in nature. They are highly corrosive in nature, so we shouldn't be touching them directly. You already know that sulfuric acid and nitric acid, what it can do. They are highly corrosive in nature, so we should handle it with care. So this is all about the mineral acids. Next one is the concentrated acids and dilute acids. Remember, all the acidic solutions are basically the mixture of acidic gas plus water. You must be thinking, what is this? Actually, beyond a particular temperature, the acid will be converting to its vapor form, so that acidic gas is known as the vapor form of the acid. And when it is being mixed with water, we actually form the acidic solution. So while talking about the concentrated acids, the percentage of acidic gas, we should write the percentage of acidic gas in the solution is maximum. This is one thing. And for dilute acids, we should say just the opposite. The percentage of acidic gas is minimum, and the solution is having maximum quantity of water. So the main thing is, here the percentage of acidic gas is maximum, here the percentage of acidic gas is minimum. So this is how we define the concentrated acids and dilute acids. Remember, there is a formula called V1S1 is equal to V2S2. This formula we can use for diluting acids. Although at class 10 level, this formula is rarely used. This V is volume and S is the strength of the concentration of the acids. While discussing the dilute and concentrated acids, a very important question that used to come up is like this. The question goes like this: why is the concentrated acid added into water and not water into acid while preparing a dilute acid from a concentrated one. Very common question. Remember, in our lab also, we are going to prepare the dilute acid from the concentrated acids, because whenever we purchase acids from the suppliers, they used to give us concentrated acids. Suppose for sulfuric acid it is 98%. We have already mentioned why it is concentrated, why it is 98% and all. Now, why is that this is being maintained? The reason is acid plus water gives rise to acidic solution plus heat. So this is an exothermic case, highly exothermic actually. So it's a highly exothermic reaction, and huge amount of heat is being generated locally. So if imagine the situation, if we are adding drop by drop water into acid, or even more than a drop, we are adding water into acids. So obviously the water content initially will be less, acid will be huge. So what happens is the amount of heat that will be generated, there is no one to absorb that heat. So that huge amount of heat can actually break down the container. It can break the container. And it can do other sort of accidents also. So what we do is, we take the water, then we add acid dropwise, and we stir it with a glass rod so that little bit of heat, whatever is being generated, can be pacified. So that is how we prepare the dilute acids from concentrated acids. We need to maintain this not only for the getting the marks, but while working in the lab also. Acid into water will generate heat also, and water into acid will also generate heat. But water, when we are adding into acid, it is a less amount of water into huge amount of acid. So the amount of heat that will be generated will be sufficient enough to do any kind of accident. While if we are adding little bit of acid into water, and if we stir it vigorously, then the amount of heat that will be generated will be somewhat pacified, I should say. Next topic is even more important. It is known as strong and weak acids. How to designate a given acid as strong or weak? The answer is quite simple. It is depending on the amount of H plus ion, or one can say H3O plus ion dissociated in the solution, or we can say capability of dissociating or liberating H plus ion in the medium. So we are going to define the strong acid or weak acid based on this criteria, whether it will be able to generate more amount of H plus or less amount of H plus ions. And it is being observed very clearly that these mineral acids, what they actually do is, all the acids can be dissociated. There is no difference amount of H plus ions these can generate, this is 100% dissociation. While in case of formic acid, acetic acid, even HCl also, the dissociation is not complete. Here, this dissociation is incomplete. Suppose there are 100 molecules, you can get only 10 to 12 molecules which will be dissociating H plus ions. So the complete dissociation that it should be doing will not be taking place, while in this case 100% dissociation takes place. So that's why these are called strong acids while these are called weak acids. So after discussing these 4 topics, our next topic is slightly different. Now we are going to discuss about the properties of acid. Various properties are there, out of which 1 or 2 such properties will further lead to the discussion of, or further lead to the classification of more topics. So let us start one by one. First is the taste. We know it is having a very common sour taste. Second is corrosive nature. Acids, mostly the mineral acids, they are having the capability of damaging human or animal tissues. So we have to handle it with very carefully. All the acids are in general corrosive in nature. The capability of this corrosive nature may be less or more, but the corrosive nature is definitely there. The third one is dissociation in aqueous medium. If I take HCl plus water, if I take HNO3 plus water, if I take, say, acetic acid plus water, in all these cases, what happens is H3O plus hydronium ion will be generated. Here also, here also. So you see that one thing is common over there, that the generation of hydronium ion. So acid, while dissociating into water, will be giving rise to this particular ion. Next one is reaction on metals. Reaction with metals. Now, as I have told you, few of the topics will further lead to the discussion or further lead to the opportunity of discussing something new. Metals and its properties, metals and non-metals, is the next chapter. So all the things that we should be discussing on this particular topic could not be discussed, because regarding metals, few of the topics we do not know yet. But what we can say is, you see these reactions, zinc plus HCl, zinc plus H2SO4, potassium plus HCl, magnesium plus H2SO4. See, on these cases what happens is it gives rise to the formation of ZnCl2 plus hydrogen gas. Here also ZnSO4 plus hydrogen gas. Here also KCl plus hydrogen gas. Here also MgSO4 plus hydrogen gas. See, the one thing is common, which is very easily all of us can identify, that is the formation of hydrogen gas. At the same point of time, I should mention that copper, silver, gold, these metals are non-reactive into these reactions. To understand the reason, we have to understand one particular topic which is there in the next chapter, which is called the activity series of metals. So do keep in your mind, there is a series based on which it is being decided that which metals are having the capability of displacing the hydrogen from the dilute acids. Zinc could do it, potassium could do it, magnesium could do it, but copper, silver and gold could not. It depends on that reactivity series. The detailed discussion on the reactivity series we will be having later on in the next chapter only. But for the time being, one thing we can say that most of the metals are having the capability of displacing the hydrogen from the acids which is having hydrogen. Why have I said that acids which are having hydrogen? Because according to Lewis concept, even if a substance is not having hydrogen, then also it could be said as an acid based on its capability of losing or gaining electron. However, here we are talking about those substances which is having hydrogen, and the metals are having this capability of displacing or liberating hydrogen gas from an acid.